In this meeting, good afternoon. This meeting of the Preservation Board is now in order. And call roll. John is here. Commissioner Allen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Hammaker, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Killeen, are you somewhere?
Yes.
Here. Are you somewhere? An affirmation. Commissioner Robinson, are you somewhere?
He's about to go into text with the link.
Five commissioners who acknowledge being present or less. Let's take a look at the agenda. Changes. Everybody okay with the order of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, then this will be the agenda that we will follow. Commissioners, has anybody read the minutes for August 28th, 2023?
Yes.
So, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes for August 28th, 2023. Commissioners, we're going to begin with appeals and directed denials. I'll ask that staff and those who testify begin by affirming that they'll tell the truth and that they submit for the record any documents they wish to include. First up, agenda item A007 North Market Street.
Good afternoon, board members and members of the public, people who are joining remotely. My name is Meg Lustow. I'm the director of the Cultural Resources Office. Before we begin, I just want to reiterate to board members who are here in the room to please speak directly into your microphones. It's not necessarily for amplification, but it's for recording on the Zoom because, as a reminder, we are in a hybrid meeting today. So, and I apologize in advance for any technical difficulties that we may experience. Do I need to be sworn in? Do I need to be sworn in?
Is the testimony you're going to give the truth?
It is.
Okay, let's go till midnight.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to tell us about signing up to speak?
Yes. Yes, that would also be helpful. If you are here for an agenda item or not, please sign up in the back of the room. There's a general sign-in sheet if you're here to observe, and if you'd like to speak on an agenda item, please sign up under the specific agenda item on that list. And that also goes for anybody who is in the Zoom. If you would like to speak, please put in the chat where it says send chats here. Please put your name and the address of the agenda item on which you would like to speak.
You know how much you sound like a Muslim announcer?
We have worked very hard to make the tech work tonight, and I'm sorry that it's not flawless. But,
It's great.
Well, we cannot agree on the beat.
So,
Pull the other microphone over, or can you? Sorry.
apparently I cannot.
can you move closer to it?
Seriously? How about now? Testing, testing, testing.
That is.
Hello? Hello? This is working so well.
Mike Clean, can
Is
you
this one on?
hear the chair?
Is this one on? You wanna-
That's not gonna work.
Mike, you're
That was-
muted.
Yeah, exactly. That was my.
You can hear the chair.
You could have done that.
We can, okay.
You may want your phone.
Yeah, I think I was gonna write it for the best we can. Robinson here is okay.
Yeah, you did.
Anthony, can you hear us?
Testing.
Yes, I can.
All right. So this is an appeal of a director's denial to demolish a 3-story brick house. I should add that I am entering into the record ordinance 64689 as amended, my PowerPoint, my presentation, and the documents that have been submitted to the Preservation Board. Can we go to the slide? So we'll leave it right there. So the applicant, Northside Regeneration LLC, applied to demolish this building. It has been denied by the staff of the Cultural Resources Office, and the applicants, the owners, have appealed that to the Preservation Board. 2007 North Market, if we go to the next slide, is located in the Clemens House Columbia Brewery National Register District and a Preservation Review District, where the Cultural Resources Office and the Preservation Board have jurisdiction over demolition applications. The building is a merit structure under the definition of the ordinance. The current owner acquired the building in 2005 and now wishes to demolish it. There are no plans for new construction on the site, so it would remain vacant. And I should add that in a discussion with the owner and confirmed by a research of building permit applications, there hasn't been any work undertaken since 2005. Again, we determined it to be a merit building in sound condition and determined that the proposed subsequent development would be a vacant lot. And I also wanted to add that the city of St. Louis has taken action to stabilize the building via the Stable Communities STL program, which was created by Executive Order 76 and allocates funds for the stabilization and preservation of the city's vacant and abandoned buildings. We do have here in the room Mia Wood, attorney for the city of St. Louis. She can answer questions if there are any about Stable Communities STL. We also have Banjo Papolis, building inspector with the city of St. Louis, who has also taken a look at the building for the purposes of that program, but can offer a source of professional backup in terms of our determination that the building is sound. So I'll briefly go through the, actually the photos, Andy, if you can go through. So here are some additional views of the house on this block. Next. Here's a detail. You can see some of the incredible brickwork that's up at the top. Andy, is there any way to move something over so that there's a little bit more? Yeah, okay, thank you. Next. This is a bit of context. You can see that this is the only vacant building on that side of the block. There's one vacant lot on this block. Next. Some more context of the north side of North Market. Next. And this is the south side. So it's a remarkably intact block. There are some vacant buildings on the south side, but they are renovation candidates as well. I think that back to the last slide. Yeah, okay, if we can go back to one of the earlier slides. So there isn't a redevelopment plan for the area in terms of architectural quality. Again, we found it to be a merit structure. The National Register nomination form for the expansion of the Clemens House Columbia Brewery National Register District states that it was constructed in 1892 for Frederick A. Koenig. A vernacular structure, it's a city property type identified in CRO surveys as a St. Louis L, a two-story residence where the primary entry is located in rear L or wing, and most architectural detail is concentrated on the front facade. In this case, the front is a finely detailed example of the Richardsonian Revival architectural style. The two-bay front facade is marked by segmental arched openings trimmed by archivolt molding that continues as a belt course across the facade. An ornate brick cornice composed of projecting brick dentils above a frieze of decorative brick supports the false mansard roof with polycolored hexagonal slate and center wall dormer. Its brick gable filled with a pattern of molded brick. Condition, as I've stated, we determined that the building was in sound condition. Neighborhood effect and reuse potential. We note that the block is largely intact. There are some vacant buildings and a few vacant lots in the area, but this is a definite renovation candidate. There has been a pattern of disinvestment in this area over several decades, as I'm sure we all know, but there has been reviving interest. We were contacted last year and have continued to be in contact with members of this neighborhood who have expressed interest in creating a local historic district that would offer protection against more than just demolition, but for the kinds of renovation that are architecturally sensitive and requiring new construction. And we have not gotten any information on economic hardship. Again, the proposed subsequent construction, there really isn't any, so the outcome would be a vacant lot. Preliminary findings and conclusions, we say that it's a contributing resource to the Clemens House Columbia Brewery National Register District. It's located within a Preservation Review District. It is sound under the ordinance. It's in an area of renewed development interest. The city, via Stable Communities STL, plans to stabilize the building, and the proposed subsequent construction is really just a vacant lot. So again, we denied the demolition application and asked that you uphold our denial.
Commissioners? Questions for staff? The appellant present?
before we continue on, we have a hard time hearing on Zoom at that microphone, so speak a little louder if you can.
Will do. That, is that okay? My name is William Laskowski, representing Northside Regeneration here. Also with me today, Ramona Tumlin Rucker from our office as well. You should have in the packet the presentation that'll follow, plus a short narrative, which I can go through. I think the exhibits, they include some existing conditions. Can we,
Will your testimony be the truth?
pardon me?
Will your testimony be the truth?
Oh, yes. Always. Okay. Why don't we just get into the existing photos again here? We can just see some of those. So from the outside, if you guys look at the attached structural engineer's report, this all looks in order from the outside, with the exception of some cracks. You might be able to see some at the top of that chimney in the top right corner. But I think the real tale of the story is, if you switch to the next slide, please. So on the inside and from the inside out, what you have is the typified brick construction, no increased reinforcement of Ys in between. On the outside, load-bearing walls. You've got rotted beams, missing roof sections, missing floor sections, all of which laterally go side to side to a building like this to help keep it standing. So the concern there, as the structural engineer looked at this, was the whole integrity of being able to withstand both storm and or wind loads and forces and or unlikely seismic, but the same kind of loads would be imposed. And the idea of this report is really one coming from a public safety point of view, not to be able to have anyone injured who would come and try to fix or repair or shore this up, or have property damage to anyone either on the public streets or to the adjacent neighbors. Let's go to the next slide there. So to the point of either vacant lot or intended use here, this is a map going back to the days of Civitas, working hand in hand with the city when we were developing the close proximity to the NGA, which is now becoming a reality. So on this map here, this was one I just selected right below where it says 1 mile radius. This property is located just below the E there, just for reference to see how close it is to the property there, just to the left there on 20th Street where NGA is located. The idea, if you go to the next slide, please, was to have the neighborhoods, which we had some say-so over, in other words, property ownership, to be able to cast those in light of the new NGA and the housing that might be spurred by those wishing to live in the nearby and take advantage of that proximity. So this building is the yellow, I don't have a pointer here, sorry, but it's above the 20th Street and North Market on the inside of the block there. So the point being, there were a bunch of typologies developed with Klitzing Wallace Associates that would address, save for the fact that we could not save or rehabilitate buildings, which was always our primary objective to do. Those were part of the embedded design principles. But in those that we couldn't, to be able to have a replacement that would be fitting into the overall context of the neighborhood there. And if you go through the next couple slides here. So I would direct your attention, in this case, to the bottom row there in the middle. The idea of the so-called flounder side entrance, which this building is closest to in that typology, and the taller sloped 3-story roof that would match up to the heights of the existing and adjoining properties, all with bricks around, all the way around to match up to that brick with some of the detailing, of course, that would be reviewed presumably by somebody at the city for its exactness in its replacement. So there is and was an intended use for this, save for the fact of the time effort that it took to get the big project, meaning the NGA, going after many, many years. No one, and I described this in the narrative, if you all have that, would have ever fully expected from 2012 until present day that they would still be under construction and not open. It took a great deal of time and effort for them to make the site selection. We worked hand in hand at a certain point, getting the city on board, won that job happily. Then they went through their NEPA process. After that, they went into design and figuring out how they want the building configured. So having hired a local contractor here, they've been working at it for 3 or 4 years with an expected opening, I think, of early 26 now, from what I'm hearing. There's a fair amount of time that was spent there. There are all kinds of other market factors, let's call it that would involve COVID, pandemic. Before that, a challenge to the actual TIF that lasted 4 years. So there's a number of reasons of how we went from point A to point B. Point being that the property accumulation for properties like this is what made NG8 possible. And the formula, I would say, is actually working, but a little more in slow motion than everybody intended, in that we create the area of concentrated jobs, good jobs, the retail and all the services that will of necessity follow those, and they are coming. Apparently, we still live in the show me state here, so all of the takers that we previously had showed on the residential side, which included TriStar, some of the local, a consortium of local home builders, and then some of the local home builders have all taken a pass to kind of see what was going to happen over the years as they went by, to see if any of this would ever happen before they would dip their toe in the water and sign up for this. So I think your staff has correctly pointed out that with the imminent opening of NGA, I believe there is going to be a market for these lots that are in and nearby, and buildings like this are going to be needed. And I think they probably have raised the market expectation for being able to renovate and or replace buildings like this. As it stands, over the years, the formula, it just hasn't worked with regard to spending the amount of money, and the proposal even that we got from the city, we think is a little low. Putting that kind of stabilization money into it, which doesn't even get a habitable per se building, and then adding on the current day, probably 30 to 40% inflation from the last 3 to 4 years of construction costs. Let's say pick a medium range of $175 a foot or thereabouts, depending on options you choose. It puts a building like this almost between $400,000 and $500,000 of sunk in, maybe even a little more than that. Even minus tax credits and all the other programs that we were aware of, the formula for market rates previously heretofore has been absent. So here's the situation we're in. We're not alone here. We know that there's plenty of other properties around that have this same issue. And we're here to try and pull the rope in the same direction to get things back on the north side to where they were back in the days. And but in this case, after going through it and actually getting inside the building with a structural engineer, there is concern about how that shoring could take place and how things could go awry there. And it was his opinion that it would be better in this case to pay and put that money toward taking it down with a replacement that looks historically correct in this sense here. So that was the opinion. I think that's the gist of the presentation that we have here. Any questions from the board on that?
Do you have anybody else that speaks with you?
Joe Dooley was going to be here, but because of the Yom Kippur holiday, he's not going to be present today. So the answer is no. Just
And you want to introduce your power director?
oh yes, yes, and hopefully that includes the narrative that was attached to.
Anything else you want on the record?
No.
Commissioners, questions?
Questions, Gilskowski. Several questions, but there is a St. Louis Place Neighborhood Association. Have you engaged that organization about this demolition? And if so, what is the opinion that they've expressed to you?
Well, we've attended a lot of the meetings over the years. Brian Kruger guided us through that process for almost 10 years. Ramona's been attending some of those meetings more recently. And I know, there's this new program that Meg alluded to that we're not sure exactly at this point, standing here, how that works with regard to an owner like us, whether those funds would be available for stabilization. Certainly wouldn't be opposed if they were, but I know there have been recent meetings that people have looked at this saying, we want no more vacancy. Well, the vacancy is already there. And we were saying is how do we get to the point where it cannot be vacant, that it can be occupied with a new building?
Was the intention of the prep and North Side Regeneration predecessor purchased this in 2005? Was the intention then to explore reuse of the existing building? Or?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's
That's what you
the
were-
little color map
Yeah.
there. If you look at the colors, those yellow ones were the ones that we thought had merit, as Meg pointed out. But it's a case where over the years, as you saw in the interior picture, seeing sky through the interior of your building is not good. And it's caused us that severe structural dilapidation.
You'd be open to stabilization today if there was a method of funding it that could assuage the gap that you're facing in your own
I would say yes. I mean, that's been part of the issue and formula of how, and there's been all kinds of discussion that we've had on many political levels on how to, get from point A to point B on that point. But I don't think there, other than, the application of historic and state credits and things like that, that get you, between a 40-45% buying down that immense cost of not only the cost of new rehabilitation, which isn't inexpensive, on top of stabilization plus costs that have already been sunk in for many years, makes the formula particularly difficult and require some extraordinary type of programming.
And just another question on that up front. There is a program Proposition NS that could stabilize this building if it was in the LRA inventory. Would you consider, if the community supported reserve this building, donating the building to the LRA or trading for another property? Just because this is such an intact part of this Place neighborhood, it's a really unusual intact block. It seems like maybe we should try it all.
On that question, I can't speak entirely for all of the other investment people who have a stake in this building, but I think the question could be posed.
Thank you.
That's further questions. Okay, thank you very much. Several people have signed up to speak. Some with good handwriting and some with awful. Is there a banjo here? I'm not sure. I've heard 950 good things about you in the last month.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Tell us your name.
I'm Banjo Popola, building inspector with the city of St. Louis, building division.
Is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes, true.
Okay, what would you like to tell us?
The building that they were talking about, 2007 on the market. As a matter of fact, I went there yesterday to have a second look at the building again. And the foundation of this building is still solid, as if nothing has ever happened to it. The four walls is still stable. And I kind of peep inside to look at the floors. The roof has a leak for the front side of the building. And I think that's why the floors collapsed and stuff. But other than that, the building is still stable. It's still structurally sound.
Commissioners, questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Banjo,
Yes.
how long have you been doing that?
Like 15, 20 years.
Ms. Wood? Welcome.
Thank you.
What's
Hello,
your name?
my name is Mia Wood. I am with the City Councilor Office.
I don't know about swearing lawyers. Will
Okay,
you affirm?
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you want to tell us?
Yes, so this particular property was chosen for the Stabilized STL program, which is a program that it essentially will, underneath the under the building commissioner's authority, once a property has been condemned, if the condemnation is not remedied within the ordinance says 7 days, but the properties that were selected for this particular program had been in their condemned state for years. They either had accumulated violations that had not been remedied, and they had excessive fines that had not been paid. So it was essentially to target quote unquote bad actors and hold them accountable. This particular property was sent out a notification letter in February, I believe February this year. No, take that back. In October of last year. And once they were notified, they appealed it. And then after the appeal came the demo request. So it's the city's standpoint that there are funds that are available through this program that will stabilize this building. Those funds, though, will be tacked on as a lien on the property. And then the owner of that property has at least 12 months to bring it current. And if they do not, then at that point, the city could at that point seek reimbursement through a special tax suit. And that's it. That's all I have to offer.
Questions from City Council?
How soon could stabilization be mobilized?
This particular property has already had bids that went out. They were open for 10 days. A contractor was selected, but due to the appeal process, that has been put on hold. So if we get the green light, that could start immediately.
Your opinion, stabilization would not create any public safety hazards if the work could be done safely without damaging adjacent property?
Correct. That analysis was taken into place when selecting properties.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
How many properties were selected for this program?
Ugh.
Like roughly 10, 100, 60?
I don't know the exact number because it was a lot of properties that we had to choose from, but I would say probably active within a pipeline, which you said is about 60.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Rendon?
Hello. My name is Sheila Rendon. I am a longtime resident of St. Louis Place. I've been in St. Louis Place since I was born, 1972. I affirm that everything I'm saying is true.
You want to tell us?
Yes, I'd like for the Cultural Resources Board to consider denying the appeal of MPS, Northside Regeneration. As it states in the agenda, this property was acquired in 2005, yet no activity has been done to improve or stabilize this building by the purchaser. And when the neighborhood saw an opportunity to improve its status, there was a demo request made. We feel like there is enough vacancy in the neighborhood contributed by many actors, including NPS or Northside Regeneration. Currently, there is hardly any property that is available to rehab or develop. I've seen that the slide that Mr. Lukowski showed today many times. And there have been many opportunities to build on property that is already vacant and cleared, yet they have done nothing. There's 3 buildings that were built in the neighborhood that were, the price for the buildings were in excess of $200,000 and they were purchased. So it is possible to rehab and put property on the market in St. Louis Place. And I hope that you all deny the demo appeal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Rendon? Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am a I will tell the truth.
Hello, and tell the truth.
We are active members of the neighborhood association. And vacant lots, Northside Regeneration don't even take care of them. I live next to one of theirs, and I have to be the one cutting the grass. And there's a lot of neighbors that do that. So having a tearing down the building in order to keep it vacant will be just as bad as having the building. And they're not very good at maintaining the properties, vacant or with buildings. I asked for you guys to deny this because they have already torn a whole bunch of buildings, and there's a whole bunch of examples on what they do or how they maintain vacant lots. We also belong to the Neighborhood Development Committee, and if we had an opportunity to purchase this building, we will definitely buy it and rebuild it and put it back into use like it should be. That's all I got to say.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chapman?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Larry Chapman, and I swear to tell the truth.
Proceed.
First of all, I would concur with what you have already heard regarding the way that the Northside Regeneration has failed to perform any of their responsibilities as developer. I am a resident of that community of St. Louis Place neighborhood for 50 years. What I would like to address is the criticalness of this particular building. There's been many buildings, I think, that people have requested that Northside demolish because they were truly hazards, and that has not been done. Now, the one building that could contribute to the existing community is they're wanting to take that one down. This building sits, if we're going north on 20th Street, that's going to be the new Greenway. It's going to go north on 20th all the way up from the soccer stadium, really all the way to St. Louis Avenue. You probably know this. But as you walk that street, you come to the brewery, which is the first historic building and really the first residential building north of downtown. From the brewery, there's a stretch of historic housing that has been, in fact, rehabbed according to historic standards. Now, this was about 20 years ago, but they are still occupied and intact. So that row of houses makes a connection between the brewery and the block that we're talking about here. This block actually sits on the same block with Zion Lutheran Church. And so essentially, when you look at this massive cathedral type church and the existing historic houses around it, it looks as though this is meant to be here together, but it serves as also an anchor to the south end of St. Louis Place Park. The building directly across the street has already been completely rehabbed to historic standards, and every other building on that block could be brought to those same standards. So anyway, I would like to ask that you not grant the appeal to demolish that property.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody online? Nope.
I just want to point out that the drawings that were included in the presentation by the appellant were not submitted to us as plans because they aren't actually plans. In order for us to consider that those could actually be built, we would need to get something far more substantive. It sounds like these have been ideas that have been floated around by Northside for a number of parcels, but no plans were presented to us as is required by the ordinance.
Okay, Commissioners, this concludes testimony in agenda item A. Commissioner Allen, you got a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I move the Preservation Board uphold the denial of the application to demolish this three-story brick residential building. It does not meet the criteria for demolition of the Preservation Review District ordinance.
Second.
Which criteria?
Criteria for demolition of the Preservation Review ordinance. Is that Barb's assent?
Oh, I just, do you mean, all of these that are listed, architectural quality, condition, neighborhood effect, just, yeah. If there was anything you'd like to add to that.
Yes.
All
All of these, there are no redevelopment plans in place under 832's criteria for A, B, architectural quality. Obviously, it's a merit structure, contributes to the National Register of Historic District. C, condition, you've heard from the staff, from the building inspector, and from City Council's office that it's a sound building. D, the neighborhood effect and reuse potential. Even the applicant seems to suggest there is reuse potential if the funds for stabilization could be found, and certainly there's strong community interest. Proposing construction F, there is nothing proposed. I've seen those plans that were shown earlier, and those are not current, so I hope that satisfies.
Any discussion? Hearing none. The motion on the floor is to deny the appeal and to uphold the denial. It's unspecified. Call a roll. Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Khalid, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Alderman Ryan, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Do I see you?
Yes.
See you. You turn your camera on.
Can you see me? There's a St. Louis flag behind me.
Yes.
Hello? Okay, yes.
Commissioner Robinson, you present? Oh. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no? Commissioner Robinson?
As it is.
Yes.
I recognize that nose. That is Commissioner Robinson. Okay. I count 6 yeses, no nos, and the chair abstains on this vote. The appeal is denied. Let's move to agenda item B.
Sir, yeah, I can't hear you very well, so unfortunately. So I can- that's it.
Is everybody for your patience?
If anyone is in the chat, in the Zoom room, and you would like to comment, you must send us a chat notice. You can't just talk. We have to allow you to speak. Apologies again, this is our first hybrid meeting, so we're still working out some bumps in the road, but if you are participating via Zoom and you would like to comment on this or any other agenda item, please put your name and the address of the agenda item in the chat, and we will call on you when we get to that item for public comment. And there is a specific chat room person to send it to. It is the box that says send chats here. So please send that box a chat.
Wait, that has nothing to do with cats?
It is cat irrelevant. Yes. Okay. All right. So again, I'm still Meg Lousteau, still sworn in, and now presenting on an appeal of a demolition of a building at 2325 St. Louis Avenue. This is in the St. Louis Place National Register District, which is also in the Preservation Review District. Apologies, too many papers. Can we just go through some of the slides? These are some alternate views. Okay, this is, Andy, can you minimize the, thanks. So this shows the location of 2325 St. Louis. On the left is the general parcel map, and on the right is a map of the National Register District, and the red box is the parcel in question. Next. And these are some alternate views of the building from both sides. It's flanked by 2 vacant lots, which I'll get to in a moment. Some pictures from the rear. You can see that there is some severe damage in the back wall. You can also see this in this left photo that wall is pretty intact. And then this is showing the building in the top red box, flanked by the 2 vacant lots and the church that it serves. So if you go back to some of the earlier pictures. So again, 2325 St. Louis Avenue is located in the St. Louis Place National Register District and Preservation Review District, where our office and the Preservation Board have jurisdiction. We determined the building to be a merit structure per the definition in 64689. I should add that I'm entering that ordinance, my presentation, the PowerPoint, and all documents into the record. The current owner, which is Great Oak Rockaway Community Church, acquired the building along with the vacant lots on either side at 2323 and 2329 St. Louis Avenue in a land swap with the Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority in 2005.
Can I just clarify that the words on the screen are not correct? So just for the record, the words in our agenda are correct.
Yes, I am so sorry. Major error on my part. What we're looking at is 2325 St. Louis. Again, the church acquired these lots in a land swap in 2015. They now want to demolish the building and construct a parking lot which would serve the church, which is located half a block away at 2246 St. Louis Avenue. We denied the demolition application as we determined the building to be a merit building in sound condition and that the proposed subsequent construction would not comply with current zoning requirements and would not be equal or better than what is there now. So going briefly through the relevant legislation, there is not a redevelopment plan for the site. Architectural quality, building is a merit structure, a finely detailed example of the grand homes that were original to the neighborhood and still line its avenues. This house was constructed in 1885 in an eclectic style, unusual for St. Louis. Its two-bay front facade rises above a coursed limestone rubble foundation, veneered on the front with rough-cut sandstone blocks to culminate in a tall, false mansard roof atop a unique cornice. The primary entrance is deeply recessed, displaying paneled reveals. According to the St. Louis Place Historic District nomination, the three-story red brick building is 2 bays wide with a false mansard roof. A recessed entrance porch with side panels and a transom entrance occupies the first story left bay. All door and window openings are jack arched with stepped and splayed limestone lintels. Rubbed and painted sandstone courses run across the first and second story sill story lines. And short molded brick courses run below each window. The right bay has paired window openings which retain their original carved frames and mullions. The second story pair retains its 15 pane single sashes. The second story's left bay's single window retains its carved frame and original 1/1 wooden window. The second and third story right bays are stepped out from the wall plane over a corbelled base. The cornice has deep corbels with The cornice has deep corbels with molded brick rosettes in between. I'll repeat it for Richard's sake. The cornice has deep corbels with molded brick rosettes in between. The painted sandstone face foundation has 2 boarded rectangular jack arched window openings. Condition, the building is sound for the definition of the ordinance. As far as neighborhood effect and reuse potential, on this block face, there are 12 individual parcels, 5 of which still have structures. The original buildings here were almost exclusively single-family dwellings, and the lots tended to be a little larger than the lots on the south side of the block. That side of the block, Andy, if we can go a little further now, that side of the block is nearly completely intact with only 2 vacant lots. So this is the north side of the block. You can see in this left slide, the subject building is right there. The slide on the right shows that cluster of buildings a little further down on the block. This is, you can see the subject property outlined in red. This is the magnificent, somewhat Italianate building that's at the corner. I believe that's 23rd Street. Continue. And this is the opposite side of the block. So it's an incredibly intact block. Reuse potential, as we mentioned with the previous building, this is situated in the St. Louis Place National Register District and in the St. Louis Place neighborhood, and there has been a pattern of disinvestment, but there's renewed interest. I'll state again that we were contacted and have been in contact with a group of neighbors who were interested in creating a local historic district that would regulate not just demolitions, but new construction and renovation to existing buildings. And this is very close, I think a block away from the NGA site. And we don't have any information on economic hardship that's been submitted by the applicant. Getting to the proposed new construction, it would be a parking lot, and that would serve, we can go back, Andy, to the map that shows the location. Thank you. To serve a non-adjacent church located at 2236 St. Louis, it would not equal or exceed the contribution of the existing structure to the existing streetscape and block face. The parking lot would be aesthetically incompatible with the existing block face and overall character of the street. The existing building forms an element of the street wall. A parking lot, even one that is well landscaped, would further erode that wall. Additionally, the proposed use does not comply with current zoning requirements. The parcels all lie in Zone A, single-family residential dwelling district. Under the city's zoning code, surface parking lots are not permitted in Zone A. Such a use would require that the owner apply for and be granted a variance by the Board of Adjustment. The owner has been informed of this, but has not yet begun the variance process. So even if you were to grant the demolition appeal, they could not go do a parking lot there. It's simply not allowed by the zoning. So Again, our preliminary findings and conclusions, and in the St. Louis Place National Register District, in the Preservation Review District, it is in sound condition. It's a merit structure. It's in a stable block, has reuse potential, and the proposed subsequent construction is a parking lot, which would not equal or exceed the contribution of the structure to the existing streetscape or block face and is not permitted under the current zoning. Additionally, we just received a letter, and I handed you all a copy from the St. Louis Development Corporation. I believe the appellant who will be making her own presentation will have some information about the land swap. But SLDC has sent a memo. We literally got this about an hour before the meeting that clarifies that the language in the agreement did not bind them to somehow grant this approval for demolition and or the construction of the parking lot. So please take a look at that if you have any questions. We've not, no.
Has the appellant seen this letter?
Yes, I gave it to her about 5 minutes after I got it myself.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
You just saw this letter,
Yes,
so you probably can't answer.
I'll do my best.
I guess I can talk to the applicant, but why SLDC facilitated a sale of a property from the Northside Regeneration, who we just heard from on agenda item A, and a historic building rather than a vacant lot?
I'm sorry.
Why would SLDC, you can't speak for SLDC and you don't have knowledge.
Right, but you mentioned the previous project.
The previous applicant, Northside Regeneration, owned this building until it was transferred to Greater Bible Way. That's what.
Right, SLDC did.
Yeah, so I'm wondering why that happened, how that happened.
I believe that Ms. Battle Turner will speak to that, but I can tell you that right behind the church, NGA is right behind the church. There's an alley, and then against the NGA site. It's my understanding, and we'll speak to this, that NGA wanted those lots that they had, and so this was a swap made, but I'll let her get to the details.
Further questions, commissioners?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Betty Battle Turner. I'm the attorney for the church. And to go to the question that was just put on the floor before I get into my presentation, yes, I will tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Every time I ask a lawyer to affirm something, she kicks me.
Well, I understand her. I know her face too. Okay, this is where we are now. What happened is that the church had 6 parking lots behind its building, present church. And those 6 parking lots there, they needed for NGA. The church stands here, there's an alley. On the other side of the alley, we have 6 lots that were used for parking. NGA, when they were making the, trying to make some recommendations to take those lots, the pastor said, well, we need parking. Where can we get parking? How is it going to be for us to have any parking? Now, I got this letter a minute ago, but it seems as though there's been a change of heart, but either there's been dealing in bad faith because they promised that they would help us get those 3 lots, which they gave to us for us to build parking there. They even went to tell us about the offset that was required for that. We talked to an architect about all of that. And we're going to follow up. If we get permission to demolish this building, we're going to follow with that architect in order to make parking there. The church right now has no parking. The only thing they have right now is they can do a 45-degree angle parking in 6 spots in front of the church only. That's it. And so that's the answer to your question. So now, if you don't mind, may I go into my presentation, or you have additional questions regarding NGA? Okay. All right. Well, the first slide, who's helping me with the slide? The first slide, this church has been in the neighborhood over 70 years. The first building they owned is the little white building, which is now a museum, the Vashon Museum. And they moved in 2005 to the building they have now, which used to be Greenlee Presbyterian Church. So they've been there a long time. It's not like this is somebody who's going to up and leave. So there's a need for them to have some way to have whatever kind of programs they have, funerals, large arrangements, council meetings, which they can't have now because they have no way to place to park. Now, into this process, when NGA promised us that they would give us the 3 lots we had, they looked everywhere to try to find other parking spaces for the church. That was the only place they were able to come up with a place that we could do it. And they gave those lots to us. Now, this was in 2015. We just got the parking, the 3 lots in January of this year. We have been trying to get them to turn it over. They would not turn it over. So if someone asked the question, what is taking you so long? We just got it in January. And immediately we began to work on what we're trying to do now. The city at that time even said, okay, is verbiage, and I know verbiage does not make a contract, but they said to us that what we would do is that we would even tear the building down and then also give you some help in getting rid of some of the trees. This is all, I can't say in due diligence negotiations, but this was all done during the negotiation process to get them to give up those lots. And the way NGA is right now, it is back at the church. There's no place behind the church for anything to happen. It's already fenced in for NGA's purpose. In that this church has been there so long, I would hope that the board would understand that a church that has been in a community as long as it has been, that they would have an interest in trying to not only keep the church there, but to accommodate the church in its needs for some sort of parking. So this is how we got where we are. The next slide, please. I want to show you a progressive deterioration of the neighborhood. The building that's in question. I'm waiting for the next slide, sir. Yes, the building that's in question, you can see those are pictures that are from the city assessor's office in 2007. The buildings became vacant in 2006. But in 2007, you can see that the second floor windows and the third floor windows seem to be somewhat intact. Even the first floor is probably intact. The back side is not blown out as my later pictures are going to show. The side porch is there, the rear side porch is there. This is in 2007. Next slide, please. Now, this is the picture of the building that was used to get National Historical Registry application filed, and that area did indeed get historical, his application was actually granted, and that was in 2011. At first, I was under the impression that the property was considered a non-contributing property, but now I know that it is a contributing property. The next slide, please. That's just a copy of the National Registry application I was going to show you. And then there are several slides I have that deals with the history of the area. So that you understand that while we understand and appreciate, I've been to 46 countries or more, and I've gone to all kinds of historical buildings, and I've seen them, and I marveled at a lot of them. And I do that because I enjoy architectural design. I enjoy seeing them. I enjoy knowing the history behind them. So in getting ready for this, I got the history behind it. So I just added to my presentation, the history of the St. Louis place. Now, I've been familiar with the street for a long time because the pastor who had the church who started the church in the Vashon building, I knew him because he was a very close friend of my father. My father was a pastor for church, so I knew him. And I remember the area when going down St. Louis Avenue, you had these grand homes. I remember that. I'm 77, so I remember a lot, okay? So I remember all of that. So I understand how it used to be, but what used to be, those does not exist today, right now on St. Louis Avenue. Shameful it is, but it's because no one invested in the properties there when they first began to go down. They allowed them to go down to such an extent that now a lot of these buildings are a hazard. So who do we blame for that? Life, I guess, takes its course. So that's what happened. Then I want you to go to the next slide that shows the two buildings there. I put that to compare something. See the picture for 2007, January 2007, how it looked then. The picture on the right is how it looks now. You can see a lot of decay that has taken place in those years. This house has been sitting there, nothing is happening. What gets to me sometimes is why is it that when they put this building in the historic registry, why didn't someone go to that building and try to do something to rehab it at that time, not allow it to be used as to bargain to get the lots that the church had, and then now tell us, well, we don't have anything to do with it. In essence, that's what the letter seems to say to me, is we don't have anything to do with it. That was not our problem then. Yes, they promised that, but that's not our problem. This is the way I'm seeing it now. So now you see that the building is totally in bad, really bad shape. The next slide. So what I've done in here is to show you by each floor. This is the entry to the building, the first floor and how it is. And the second floor windows, you can see that that's also open on the second floor. Next slide. This is the front third floor, and look at the roof. Right now, the roof you may look at it and say, well, we can do something with that roof. But if you've got a property that has been vacant that long with rain coming down it as much as it has been, you got to imagine there has to have some mold in there. You got to imagine there's a lot of deterioration going on because of the roof. The next slide, please. Now, this is a good view of the side and the roof, and you can actually see the holes at the top. At the very top, some of it is near the white part and the brown part, but those are holes in that roof that has been open and exposed to nature for a long, long time, for many, many years. The next slide, please. This is a side view. On the right, there used to be a porch up there. It's no longer there. It's gone. On the other side, where the windows are, if you look at it closely, you're going to see that it's sort of like caving in a little bit. It's sort of going in. I'll show the line later. Next slide, please. These are the side porches that they had. When Laclede Gas went into the building in order to try to get into the building, they tried 3 different times to get into the building to cut the gas off. They could not get in the building. The last time they decided that we cannot, the repair person went in, his foot touched the floor, and he said that it began to crack. And all around him, say in front of that building, the floors you can see straight to the basement. So for his safety, he decided they couldn't. And what they had to do is turn the gas off from the meter on the outside, not that meter, but from the street, because they could not get in the building because it was that bad of a hazard to get in the building. The next slide, please. Now here you find great deterioration in this building, in the brick and the framing of the building. How in the world is this building stable? I don't understand how anyone can say it's stable, but this is the building. You can see that the cracking starts from the top all the way up. You can see the brown door that lets you know that they're in harmony with each other, all the way up the building. And there's a bowing in that brick. If you see it on site, the drone operator who was taking the pictures, he says, you know, there's a bowing in that brickwork up there. So that's in that building. Next slide, please. Now, this is a closer view of the door that's going to be on, if you're standing on your left side, this is a door, you see it's all crumbled on it. And here's the down by the basement. You can see that the bricks are crumbling around. There's a connection with the first floor on this side, on the right side. You see the brickwork is coming down from the first floor all the way up to that, from the basement all the way to that first floor window. It's cracking. On the other side, the cracks come all the way down the side of the building. The next slide. Now here's a picture of this crack. This crack comes from the right side all the way down to the ground level of this building. And the brickwork is sort of protruding outwardly as well on that building. Okay, next slide. Now, what I have done is that I have actually met with neighbors on the block and actually talked to them. And my interest was in trying to find out that will the parking lot bother them if the parking lot is done very well. They said no. Anything would be better than what we have because this building has been in this condition for a long time, for many, many years. Not only that, there was a bus stop near that building and they were afraid one time, it's no longer there. They were afraid one time of children having to go catch a bus and this building is in sight. I see fear in talking to some of them about what could happen with this building there. We know we're in the city and we're not all angels. We know that. And there are some other people out there who will see this building as an opportunity to do some harm. The church at this point cannot get insurance on the building. They will not insure the building simply because of the fact of the condition of the building. So the church is given this building, it's in such bad shape, they can't get any insurance on it. The next thing they have to worry about, if someone is hurt there, they have to take a liability that they didn't have to have if they were able to tear the building down. We're not just trying to tear a building down just because it's in bad shape, but I look at it from another point of view. If that building is brought back up to standard, it's going to take an awful lot of money to make that building habitable again. And then if it is brought back up, no one is going to buy a $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 house in that area. You're not going to pay that kind of money for that area. Yes, we wanted to come back. Yes, I remember the days of glory, but right now the church needs some form of parking. We have none other than 6 parking lots that we can do a 45-degree angle parking on that street. On the south side of the street of St. Louis Avenue, there are homes all the way up and down that street with only 2 vacant lots. And the gentleman on this side, on the east side, bought the property that was vacant, and the person on the west side bought the property. So there's no vacancies there. There's nothing for us to get. So I'm asking this board to take in consideration that I have 2 neighbors that Mr. McMullen is directly across the street from the building. And he states here that he's been in the neighborhood for 35 years. And he's seen the neighborhood go up and down. And if you read it, you'll find out that he's saying that it is a problem, it's a hazard, it keeps getting worse, and that he has no problems with the church making a parking lot out of the building. The next slide, I'm so sorry, sir. The next one is from Latanya Harsley. She lives in the area too, 2228 St. Louis Avenue. She has also been there 30 years. When she first bought her house, I actually went to see her house because she did such a good job on the outside. It's a very nice house, and I live in a very old house too, 1904. I understand old homes. I like old homes. That's just, I'm old too, so what, but I like old homes, just saying that. So I love old homes. And so she had an air conditioning system that I needed, a full force from the attic that cools the whole house. It works beautifully. She had it, I saw it on this old house, couldn't find it anywhere. I got in touch with her people, and my system still works 30 years later. But what I'm saying is that I know people who want to preserve old homes. If you love an old home, you just love it. You don't want to get rid of it. But an old home in this condition is not going to draw anybody to it. If there were a possibility for somebody to buy this house and rehab this house, they have had many years to do so. It's been sitting with LRA since 2006. They could have gotten the house and did something. Maybe they could have gotten some funds that the lawyer from the city was talking about to rehab it. They didn't. So my question is, then why would they say to us, we'll give you these lots, 3 lots to park in, but we're going to take all 6 that you have already and now tell us we don't have anything to do with it. So I say to you this, please, whatever decision you make, let your conscience be your guide. Secondly, how many of you would like to live in a neighborhood with that house looking like that on your street? And every time you walk out your door, you look at that house. How many of you would like to do that? If you think that perhaps you don't want to do that, if you think perhaps children will be safe without that house, please, for the sake of the church, we would like to be able to tear it down. Thank you.
Ms. Battleturner, before you leave,
Yes.
just for the record, Judge,
Yes.
Police Commissioner?
Yes.
Civil Service Commissioner?
I've been over those, yes.
Okay.
Okay, you got me. Thank you.
Ms. Rankin again? I want to make sure I had not forgotten. Oh, no.
Okay, am I still, okay,
You're still.
Okay, great.
Until midnight, please.
until midnight? Okay, I would like for the board to consider not allowing demo on this property. We have very little housing available in the neighborhood. As I said, I've been in the neighborhood since birth, and I was directly affected by the NGA project. My family's home was at 2314 Malamphy Street. Excuse me. And my family moved there in 1963. This church was also a theater. Community center was attached to it, Greeley Center, that the children in the neighborhood were able to attend in the summer. But the neighborhood is changing. the lots that were behind the church were not used for parking. There was a playground on that. And we attempted to improve on the playground prior to this NGA project in order to give the children who were living close to the project, to the church, an opportunity to have a playground because the St. Louis Place Park playground was across St. Louis Avenue, which is a very busy street. St. Louis Avenue is one of our well-traveled streets, and the people who live on St. Louis Avenue are very proud. The existence of this property is troublesome because we have a gentleman that lives right west of this house who is documenting his rehab and restoration on YouTube. It was a former dentist that owned this building and a taxidermist, but he's shown many pictures of the state of the building, and it's still not complete, but he's working very hard to get this house into livable state. I think that as we are struggling now to revitalize our neighborhood, that the loss of any building would be harmful to St. Louis Place. I understand promises were made to Greater Bible Way Church. Promises were made to me as well. Promises were made to the entire neighborhood that the NGA project would spur development, and it hasn't. So I would hope that any opportunity to develop or redevelop or rehab any property in the neighborhood would be addressed prior to a demo. Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
The dentist and the taxidermist were the same person?
It was, it appears that the basement was used for one thing and maybe the rest of the house was used for something else, as well as living. Yeah, if you look at his YouTube videos, they're pretty enlightening on what's inside these buildings. I've seen a couple of pictures that show that properties are in disrepair. The building that my husband and I were able to get from LRA at Knapp and Howard Street, same thing. The wall was down. My husband built the wall up by himself in the summer. The roof was gone. He put a roof on. It is possible to rehab these buildings and put bodies in them. That's what we want for St. Louis Place. We don't want any more vacancy. Parking lots do nothing to help us. It does nothing to increase population. And I'd like to be able to see St. Louis Place grow rather than deplete. Thank you.
Anybody online?
Yeah, we have two names. Caleb Higgins is the first one.
Let's call Caleb Higgins.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I'm gonna need to see you also. Can you turn
Oh,
it-
hold on. Let me fix that. Start video. Hello, everybody. I am actually the guy who lives, well, just as the lady was talking about, I'm the guy that lives on St. Louis Avenue. To set the record straight, the guy was a veterinarian, not a dentist. And he did run his practice out of the basement here at my house. And so, yes, my house has been in many of these photos. I would like to, oh, yes, and I will tell the truth. But I would like to say that to stop the demolition of this house, I think I look at it every day. It is literally outside my window right here. It's a gorgeous structure, and the fabric of St. Louis Place, especially on my side of the street, especially on this block, we've lost so many structures, as you can see in the photos, and any loss of any further structures, I think, would just be very detrimental. The neighborhood is changing very rapidly. Prices are coming up very rapidly. And especially for houses of this size, there are just not very many left in the neighborhood that are in this condition. A parking lot also would be entirely incompatible with the streetscape. It would completely decimate what little is left on this side. It is the center of the block. Also, the church's congregation has a very small congregation at this time, I believe less than 30. And of course, I'm here every Sunday. They have never even parked up to the spot on this street, so they've never even used the allotted street parking that even comes up to this site. So I see that as entirely unnecessary. I feel very bad, of course, for the entire NGA project and how it has affected their congregation, but is entirely incompatible with this beautiful neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Virginia Drew?
Can you hear me?
I'd like to see you too.
Can you hear me?
We're looking for you now.
Hello?
Somebody with a microphone. Okay,
Great.
yes. We can see you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm also a very long time resident of the neighborhood. I'm out at a playground with a toddler, so I don't know if I missed the comments on 2007 North Market. But I would like to address both. To repeat what's already been said, we cannot afford to lose one more residence in our neighborhood. We have lost so much of our history and of our housing, and history is a lot of what a neighborhood like ours offers that appeals to people. I'm sorry for the church feeling that they were not given accurate information. It happens, I know. But I both would not want to see the building come down, and especially, I just can't see a parking lot on St. Louis Avenue. That just destroys what that whole street is about. And 2007 North Market likewise is part of a fairly intact block. It's part of an intact row of buildings. And I just would hate to see either of them lost. So that's really the heart of what I have to say. Thank you very much.
What's your testimony the truth?
And if you want to swear me in, yes, I swear everything I said was true.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, that concludes testimony in this matter. You're still under oath.
Yes. There's been a lot of talk about what LCRA did and didn't say. I just like to read verbatim from the actual contract. It says LCRA further agrees to assist Greater Byway in obtaining all necessary permits or approvals for the construction of a parking facility. It does not in any way guarantee that they can compel other agencies to change their policies or their review policies or their variance policies. That includes both cultural resources and the zoning department, which would have to send this application for a variance to the Board of Adjustment, because if they cannot allow, they can't at staff level grant permission for a parking lot. And
Isn't that the LCRA model? We're here to assist you.
I'm not sure. I don't speak for LCRA.
Because otherwise, Commissioner Allen is going to.
My motion is that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the application to demolish the three-story residential building as it does not meet the criteria for demolition under the Preservation Review District.
Would you look at the criteria and tell me which ones your motion is based on? Your titles.
Addition. Neighborhood effective reuse potential, economic hardship, proposed subsequent construction, redevelopment plans, and then architecture.
For a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I did look at the street view that goes back to 2011, and it does not appear to have been parking lots at that time. So I'm unclear on the land swap arrangement.
The parking lot wasn't across the alley at the south side.
But that's what you can't see.
Right.
You see the park that resident reference. So I don't know. Maybe it was used for parking at a time. That's not the case.
We did the public meeting for the Single Place Historic District at this church, and there were some people using that parking. So I know it wasn't on sales. I really wish a representative of LCRA had attended and testified, because there's a lot that remains unclear on their end, and I, have to note that we've been living with, the wake of Northside Regeneration's purchasing in this area for almost 20 years now, and I saw their representatives had left, but this was their property for a long time, and they bear responsibility for the neglect here. Why LCRA would go to their property, why they would choose a contributing building to a historic district is beyond me. I really feel terrible to put this burden on Greater Bible Way as a neighborhood anchor that's trying to remain, but I think we have to be consistent, and I think the residents who said that that neighborhood shouldn't lose any more potential for housing are spot on. And it's not an easy decision or a fun one.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, I'm going to call a roll on the motion that's before us. It's been made, second, Commissioner Allen, you vote yes.
Mr. Chairman, can you clarify the motion? I couldn't hear it.
Can I can read it back to the best of my knowledge, or? Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, movement. I understand the motion to be that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the application as it does not meet the criteria for demolition as listed in section 5 of the PowerPoint presentation, including redevelopment plans, architectural quality, condition, neighborhood effect, reuse potential. The economic hardship has not been shown, is that correct? Correct. And proposed subsequent construction. That is, so that's what I'm working with here in my notes.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody's clear, I'll call a roll. Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Alderman Orion, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
I saw gesture beard, that's perfect.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
He had to drop off.
Commissioner Robinson, not vote. The chair abstains on this vote. I count 5 yeses, no no's, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Commissioners. Going to item C. We'll take a break for 2 minutes. Michael,
Okay, there are hot mics, everybody wanna. Yeah.
I require for both to count for the roll.
No, because we lost. Yeah. No, but we have the chair, Hamilton, Colleen, and I, so yes, yeah. It's
Commissioner Robinson is now shaming us all into dedication of votes there.
That was an extreme close to No, he wants to stop.
Members of the Board of Aldermen are debating for us.
Oh. We can change that again, I don't know.
And how we all feel about garage.
Oh, yeah,
I do, I'm going back to. So I know this. Do you want to speak? I'm here for. If somebody wants me to say something, I do. So, yeah, you guys are very basic about timeline stuff. Bills, the ordinance says, deviates in one way essentially. That, structures. I will mention if they get the letter from Lafayette Square, using the letter from Lafayette Square.
Play it along,
yeah, that's amazing. That sounds fun.
This is the best show.
Oh, you're like the worst.
What's that?
No, stuff on the head.
Andy, all set?
Okay, we are back in session. I'm going to call agenda item C.
Okay, hi, Bob Bettis, with staff. I will tell the truth. I need to enter in the David ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925 plus Lafayette Squares ordinances 69112 as amended by 70926. My PowerPoint presentation and all documentation. Excellent. Okay, so we have is a pretty straightforward process here. Andy, move ahead, please. Okay. You see here before you, it's a house in Lafayette Square in Benton Place. What occurred, we approved a permit for a new garage back in March. The garage is supposed to be right behind the property. Unfortunately, it was built offset about 15 feet to the north. As you see, there are two parcels on the left picture, both owned by the applicants. So in order to make the permit correct to have an actual application, the owners combined the two parcels, resubmitted an application for a new garage. The issue again in Lafayette Square is that you must build all new garages right behind the house. So in order to get before you, they've combined the lots. They have now applied for a new permit for the new garage in its actual location. Andy, can you proceed? So from the street being offset, this is an approximation, so forgive me. This is what you might see from the street. Next. This is the foundation as poured. I think the middle picture kind of illustrates the best view of what will be seen from the street and how offset it is. We guess between roughly like 15-ish feet. I could be wrong, I apologize. But you see it's supposed to be over to the right behind the house. The bottom photograph kind of shows a little bit of maybe some site issues that they may address. There are some lines off of the pole in the alley that does run to the house that would kind of go in the location of the garage had it been built where it was supposed to be constructed. Next photograph, please. This was the approved garage. And so beyond the location being incorrect, everything else is fine. I mean, we would have approved that, it's fine. Could you go back one, Andy? And just want to show there's one little odd deviation. Again, it's not relevant here, but it may speak to the overall project. There was a swapping of the doors on the alley side. So you see on the left, that's the man door entrance. On the right is where the garage door should be. Andy, you go ahead. You see they were swapped for some reason, and they may want to discuss why that is, but that also deviates from the plans, although again, not relevant to here, but again, shows there's some deviations beyond just the site plan. Go ahead. Okay, so on the left, you'll see what we approved with the initial application. On the right is where the new garage was constructed. You can see the line in the middle of the garage. That was the previous line to the other parcel. You go over again. Next. And so this kind of shows you the red where it was supposed to go, and then the garage where it was constructed, just up to the north of it. Next slide. Okay, so this is our final one. So the code states that new garages must be constructed behind the house unless there are issues at the site. Again, we always recommend if there is an issue with the site, you come to us before you actually construct the garage itself. So I do know that Lafayette Square, you have a letter from them. They are in support of staff's recommendation to uphold the inspector's denial, and they will speak upon that further. So I'm here for any questions.
So I have one, Bob.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So just to clarify, my connection's a little garbled. So they got your approval to build a garage, but then they kind of changed things and moved it over to the north a little bit.
That's correct.
And they did that without contacting you all and getting approval.
That is correct.
Okay, and then a stop work is what we're seeing here. This is where the project is today.
I apologize. Mike, could you repeat that, please?
I say, is there a stop work on this? And this is what we'd see today if we drove out there?
That's correct. This is the current condition.
Current condition. Okay, thanks, Bob.
Further questions for Bob? Thank you. Good comment, President? Hello, thank you for your patience.
Dennis Sharp, I swear to tell the whole truth. Dennis Sharp, I'm the St. Louis sales rep for Coach House Garages. We've been in business for 50 years doing garages throughout the entire St. Louis area. So this is what happened. I met with Shepperson's, sold the property. They did not have a plat plan. So I went down to the city and I asked for a plat plan for number 5 Benton. That's what was given to me. I drew up the site plan, indicated the garage off the property line, not knowing that they owned that little sliver of land to the left of number 5. It never came up until I put the garage in the site. Now, what happened was when we got out there, my foundation crew's been doing garages in St. Louis for 46 years. They know the alleys, they know the yards, they know everything. The reason why the two doors were switched, as Scott said, the approach to the garage is going to be very difficult where the overhead door is, where I had originally shown it, and he said the approach would be better to be moved up. Again, that was during the heat of battle. So I did not realize that I had pulled off of the fence, which I assumed was the property line for number 5 Benton, when in fact it was the property line for number 7, which they own. So Bob contacted me. I got with the Shepherdsons and then realized that the two lots were never conjoined together. They owned both, but they were never put together as one property. So we got a surveyor. We came out, surveyed everything on the direction of Bob. I followed everything that he told me from the very moment that I knew I had an issue, and followed everything that he had said. We got the site plan put together, located the property as it was, that we indicated what number 7 was in conjunction to number 5. And then they had submitted the paperwork to combine the properties into one property, as you now see in that view right there. So yes, I made a mistake. I didn't realize I had made a mistake. Even when Bob called me on the phone today to explain to me, I was confused because I was like, I pulled off of the property line, which is when you build buildings, you're working off property lines. And so we're always trying to make sure that, we don't encroach the property line, we stay the distance off. So once I put it in place, then Bob called, then I realized the mistake that had taken place. We're just looking for a reasonable path forward, respect the historic efficacy of the area. If you notice, one slide shows the neighbor's garage, which is fairly visible from the street. I even offered that from an aesthetic standpoint, what little part you could see, we could do a period dormer. We could, do something to give that garage more of a period look. We're willing to do anything to move forward in that regard.
I've got 2 questions.
Yes.
When the garage is finally built, will it be directly behind the house?
No.
Which would be easier in your estimate? Moving the foundation or moving the house?
Neither.
Which would be easier?
They're both complicated and expensive.
Commissioners, questions? Commissioners online, questions?
No.
Your property owner,
Yeah.
They can do their billing that they want to. Who's next?
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kyle Shepperson, property owner. My wife, we had, I swear to tell the whole truth. We bought the house of
May
2013, 14.
21st, 2013.
Right. And, we were told from the beginning from people that we should build a garage, that a house of this size, and, before we do anything else, we should build a garage. Well, we've basically renovated all of our front windows, had them restored. We're doing a couple of windows a year. I just mentioned that to know that we have been, doing what we need to do to make the house beautiful, including restoring things whenever we can. So finally, we decided it was time to invest in a garage, and we have a budget for it, but we don't know anything about any of this stuff. This is all very interesting, but we're really new to all of this. So we, enlisted help to try to figure this out. We never really thought about 7 Benton Place as part of our property. So we bought 5 Benton Place, and I kind of vaguely remembered that they said, oh, by the way, you had years ago, there was another house next to you and half of their lot was put at yours and half went to the neighbors. No, that's great. Okay. It's not that that yard is so large that you think, boy, that's a huge side yard. There must've been something here. It's not obvious. It's not something we think about. There was a garage foundation in that location. And so we always just thought we would just build a garage there. There was a brick wall right where kind of where that other one was that was crumbling when we first bought the house. We had to have that taken down. And that is a very low area in our yard, which has this pretty severe slope. So Benton Place in general is a very built up street, and it slopes down more than many of the other streets that I've seen, and it goes back pretty aggressively. And that nice low area where there was a garage there just instinctively was where we thought we would put the garage. You know, when we drew it up and we saw it sitting there next to the fence, that seemed like the absolute logical place to put it. I wasn't aware that there was any reason not to. When we were first notified that it was wrong, I kind of got the impression that people thought, you know, we were trying to pull one over, like you knew. And I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. We just told them to build a garage back there where it seemed like it was supposed to go. Dug up the old foundation and started building a garage according to what we thought were very nice plans. Trying to move the garage obviously is, you know, move that foundation is not a simple thing to do for what I would argue is a very minimal, if any, benefit. I don't know if the reason for putting garages directly behind the house, but I imagine it's an aesthetic thing. If you look at our street from the front view, our house is very, very close to the front. So you can see behind it very easily. It's kind of a short house right on the front. So when you walk between our house and the neighbors, you're going to have a view of the top of that garage roof entirely. So it's not like it's going to be anywhere hidden. Whereas I imagined if you had skinny houses stacked one after the other and you put a garage in between, it would kind of destroy the aesthetic. But in this case, I don't think it does that. Likewise, you could actually see it from the other side too. So I think that maybe, you know, there's a reason to have a precedence for this, and that granting an exception could create some kind of an opening for other people to think that they should be able to put their garages offset. But I think in this case, an exception seems quite reasonable. I don't think it's upsetting to the essence of the spirit of why we have these rules for garages and what we all want our neighborhood to look like. We certainly don't want anything that's going to be an eyesore for anyone. But it just, that's kind of how we came to this. And I would argue, if you look at the other pictures, the garage basically where it is will block the siding from the new construction behind our house. So if anything, it will look better from the street. So if it's an aesthetic thing, then I don't think there's any reason that it shouldn't be there. That's honestly where I kind of had imagined it from the beginning. That's where the garage was before. We know the people who lived there in the 40s, and they said there was a 3-car garage there. So I guess that's kind of the conclusion of the way we were seeing why we would like to keep it where it is. There are some challenges, I think, to digging up and moving it over. There's a big pole in the back from the electrical. I don't know if it's, feasible or going to be much harder to park with that telephone pole there. There are some wires. There is a plumbing line that goes basically right where that red line is right now, kind of behind the house. So, and the slope is quite severe there. So putting the garage further up would, it's just going to be even deeper into the ground, which I don't know. Dennis can speak to the feasibility of that. But as it stands, the garage is deep into the earth, and there's an 8-foot slope, which is why you notice that from the street view, you really can just barely see the roof. If there are trees, you can't see it at all. I understand that trees may not always be there, but even a bush that's this high blocks the view completely. So again, I think in the spirit of maintaining our homes and increasing property value, the current position of the garage fits the bill. But I understand that to the letter of the bylaws, it doesn't. I would just ask for a reasonable consideration for an exception. Thanks.
Commissioners, questions?
Yeah, I have a letter here from Matt Nagri of the Rockett Square Preservation Committee. Discuss this matter with Mr. Nagri.
Well, we've talked to all of our neighbors, and none of them can really see the point of not building it where it is, at least, to our discussion. That includes the people directly behind us. That includes the people across the street. That includes our neighbors. everybody's just kind of shrugging their shoulders. And again, our direct neighbor, none of them would find that position of the garage offset offensive. Again, particularly with the layout of our land, the slope, and the views and things like that.
This letter says that the committee would consider accepting this if all sides of this garage were brick. That's something you discussed or would accept or find.
Who said that?
In this letter, it says the only possible consideration this committee would concede is if the garage remains in the location where the foundation support. The garage should be all brick following the neighborhood design standard.
We talked about making the facade.
Maybe that's news to everyone. It seems like they're suggesting a possible compromise, but.
I could see the rationale of this because if it's a little more visible, making it a little more brick and more beautiful in that regard. That's the first time I saw this, but yeah, I think it sounds like a very reasonable compromise, to be honest with you. If it makes it look beautiful, then we're putting value into the structure rather than just tearing it out and wasting money for something that may not provide any more value. So I didn't read this all, but I would be happy to make a compromise and, build the garage and make it look nice.
Questions from the virtual commissioners? Jefferson, are you 100% sure what you're building there is a garage?
It's not a taxidermy boutique.
Yes.
Other questions? Thank you very much. First to speak, Marcia.
Hi, Marcia Delcor, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you for your patience.
Sure. The Shepherdsons did come to our preservation board, which I am a member of, as is Matt and Embry and Suzanne. And they did speak to the board. We initially gave our approval for their initial plans of what they had. Happy for them to add to their home, and garages are always very helpful. The dilemma is it's not behind the house. And that is in the code of our historic neighborhood is if you're going to have a garage, it needs to be built behind the house. Now that it's outside of the house, as you read in our letter, we would concede if they would consider bricking the entire garage. It now has frontage view from Benton Street, so it would be considered a front facade of a building, which brick is required. It could have a matching facade from its front. Not sure if we have an historic model example. Garages are a little bit, I think the most ones I've seen are brick. But, and I know your house is stucco. Yeah. So we would concede if they would consider bricking the house and following the code for how the code lays out and describes what needs to be done to the carriage house, bricking it, and the full facade. We would concede to that. Other than that, if they would have any other plans besides that, at this time we would say no, and we'd be in disagreement with that. So, any questions?
Then I may ask you, okay, Just for this, yeah.
All right, Ken, good evening. I swear to tell everything. The truth is I know
I
it.
didn't even ask you for that.
Yeah,
but-
well,
but I do have some questions.
Sure. First of all, I'm Matt Negri, and I am Chair of the Lafayette Square Preservation Committee. Marcia is Vice Chair, and she will be taking my place in October. But to talk about the garage, Mr. and Mrs. Shepherdson came to our February meeting with, no, it was just Mrs. Shepherdson and Mr. Sharp, the garage builder, and they presented the plans. It was a pretty vinyl type garage. We suggested, as we do, that they change it to hardy board, which they did. We sent the letter of approval to Jan Cameron, and it was in April when someone walking through the back alleys noticed that the foundation had been poured and how outside the parameters. So we have discussed this in several of our monthly meetings, and I think that we did come up with a good compromise. If there's more of a substantial building material rather than hardy board, which would be seen from Benton Place. So that's where we are now.
When they came and spoke to you,
Yes.
was there a site plan that showed the location of the garage and the rest of the house?
Yes, yes, it was that site plan. No, it was a different one. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, yes, that is the one.
Did that to be in compliance with the other standards?
We did.
Virtual commissioners' questions? Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
Is there anybody online? No. Commissioners that coach testimony in this matter, unless, Bob, you want to add anything?
When they applied for the permits in March, they did have a letter from Lafayette Square stating those parameters. So when they brought that in, we had the letter, we had that site plan. I just do want to note about garages. If it's anything is street visible at all or street facing, their code requires that all four sides be brick. So just want to lay that out there. If there anything, and they don't require a model example for garages. You can base it off of the building itself. The house would be the basis for the style of the garage. There's no real model required for the garage. So again, it would have to be all four sides brick to meet their code.
I have a question for you. I may.
I think you're in deep water. Go ahead, ask your question.
I just I was wondering at this.
Microphone.
Sorry,
we need the microphone.
Yeah.
For recording purposes. State your name.
Jack Stites, Coach House Garages Sales Manager. I'm here with Dennis Sharp. And my question for the gentleman is, this site plan on the right, is that the original foundation where that was placed before the garage foundation was demoed?
I have no idea. There were a few, well, first, we don't know when the old garage was demolished. There was a,
Ask and answer.
yeah.
Okay, virtual commissioners. Commissioner Khalidi, you got a motion?
Yes, I move that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial and allow this structure to be built with the stipulation that a new design with brick be implemented on all four sides of the building. Further, this design needs to be issued to Cultural Resources for review and final approval.
There a second? Second. Any discussion?
Well, that last sentence is just to clarify. I mean, it's easy to put bricks up on, actually, it's not easy at this point because the foundation's already there. It's probably going to require angle iron for it to work, but we would want to make sure that it's detailed properly, and Cultural Resources would be a good arbiter of that.
Commissioner Robinson, you vote yes or no? Commissioner Killeen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote.
Ryan?
He is not present.
Oh,
He
he is.
sorry, he is recused.
Oh.
Chair abstains on this. There are 4 yeses, 1 abstention, 1 recusal, and 1 desertion. So the motion carries. You all know what that means?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk to you.
Okay, calling 1,000 Barton. This is a preliminary review. Commissioners.
It's Bob Bettis with staff. This is kind of a
Full
cool.
consideration and much more relaxed.
Oh.
We will not require people to be sworn in. We'll barely make a record of it.
Nice. Very professional. What's that? This is actually a pretty cool project, but should be straightforward. We got everybody's support for this one. This is a new single-family house we built at 1,000 Barton in the Soulard neighborhood, certified local historic district. And this is the site. It's the corner of 10th and Barton. Go ahead. This is the site plan. Just some real quick background. The applicant also owns the property to the west, or I mean, just to the north of this one. It was all a single lot, and they decided to split the lot to construct the new building. Historically, back to at least 1883, there was nothing on that corner empty lot except for a few ancillary structures here and there. There might have been one previously, but we can't verify for sure if there's a house there before 83, but it might have been, but we don't want to speculate. Next. This is the front elevation, and this is the model example to the right. This is actually like catty corner from the proposed site. We're okay with the elimination of the dormer. Fenestrations is fine. So this is the model example. Next. Since it's on a corner, we had to have 2 sides of the model example. And this is the side elevation for 10th Street, same building. This is, so on the rear elevation, they'll all be brick. Part of the support from the SRG, they requested that they do all brick on the rear because there is kind of a large line of sight to the back of the building. So they asked that they all be brick, and the owner's like, great, we'll do it. So the rear is all brick, that's fine. West elevation, it's mostly siding. There's a return that goes back an appropriate distance. Next. Showing the streetscape. This is the house to the west, again, which the owner does, the applicant does own. The fenestration lines up appropriately. The roof level was fine with the cornice. The rest of the block's kind of weird. It's kind of the end of the block. So the house just to the right of the existing building is a newer house. Then you have like an odd 3-story building that's kind of offset. So the block's kind of a hodgepodge of heights. So we think this is appropriate for the Barton streetscape. Next. Along the 10th, that's incorrect. Well, not really, sort of. The 10th Street side, it's a little different. The lot has an odd sloping to it. It kind of slopes in 2 directions. So you really can't line up Barton and 10th. It wouldn't work. Plus, there's an empty lot behind Barton to the next building. So it kind of throws off the visual line anyway, but given that that's the only deviation that really comes up in the code. Next, please. These are the properties to the south. Could you go back to the other picture on me? Yes, leave it here is fine. But overall, it complies with everything else. Material, setback, massing, scale, it all complies. So beyond the deviation along the 10th Street side with the floor heights, overall, we think that this mostly complies and we do support the application. Can you go ahead, Andy? Just a little more context. This is looking west on Barton, looking top. And again, you can see it's kind of an odd hodgepodge of buildings. And then the bottom is looking south on 10th. So empty lot across the street also. So it's kind of a mix of an area, but overall, it's a good project. They've worked with us and asked everything we've asked for, they've done. Same with SRG. They had several requests and they made those changes right away. So given that, staff recommends that the board grant preliminary approval.
Additional questions for Bob? Al, have you got a motion?
Yes, I move that the preservation board grant preliminary approval to the project.
Wait, sorry, I had questions. I was on mute. Sorry to interrupt you, Michael. I have lots of questions. Is it possible to go back to the historic model example, Bob? Okay, so the cornice on the model example gets closer to the windows than what they've designed there. So we've got a big forehead on this building that needs work, I feel. Just a lot of brick above those windows. Here's another model example that has basement windows. It has a windows up on the 3rd floor too. I feel like it's not compatible with the buildings on that street unless you at least have the basement windows put in there. Is this building getting a basement?
The applicant can talk about the basement. I believe there is a basement going in. Andy, could you go back to the streetscape along Barton? Okay. It's the
All the applicants. If you don't mind sharing the microphone, we'll try to get all these questions.
What's the question?
Mike, your question?
Okay, well, I'm bringing up some issues I feel, and what is the foundation on this structure going to be?
It's going to be similar to what's on Barton right now. It's going to be concrete with whatever the facade they want, the CRO wants to be in the front of the building. So.
I'm sorry, I'm a little muffled here. So is it going to be concrete? Is that what you said?
Mike, is cast in place concrete, which is allowed in the standards.
Okay. Would you be open to putting in windows in your basement so you more closely match the neighbors there?
One of the things that I always do in terms of buildings is what I think the buyer is going to want eventually. And most of the time, we always find that they don't want windows in the front of the building from a security standpoint in the city. If it's an issue that we need to address and need to put in, that's fine. But my choice would not be to put the windows in. But if it's not something that we would be against.
And then the last question I had for staff is, are tinted windows allowed in this district? And does the owner intend to put in tinted windows?
In terms of the new construction standards, I do not note the tinting of windows. Replacement windows you cannot, and you can't for replacement windows. It does say glazing to be clear. So I guess, yes, it should be clear and not tinted.
So they need to be clear? Is that what we're saying? I'm sorry for the communications issue. Just to clarify, so are we calling for clear windows or tinted?
They were clear. They were never meant to be tinted windows.
Okay, I just note that those are popping up in a lot of the historic districts and just wanted to make sure we're thinking about that. So I would be for this project if basement windows would be installed and if we dealt with the cornice issue. Otherwise, I don't think it's quite ready yet for Soulard.
Is it required
Sorry.
Are windows required for this building right here?
Right, so nothing is required per se in terms of the design that's submitted. The design is based on a model example. It does not require replication, does not require that every element be incorporated into the design. So yeah, it's not like, we're not doing match like Lafayette Square has, you can replicate. This one, you base it on. So again, like I noted before, we are okay with the dormer not being used for this. So there's times we can omit certain details that we feel that's not going to really stray too far from the spirit of the design or the standards. It's a lower foundation in front, so sorry.
It's an added
It's an expense, but again, if it's something that you like to see, SRG did not make that an issue in their support, and staff had not either.
Motion?
My motion is the preservation board grant preliminary approval to the project with condition that final drawings, detail, exterior materials be reviewed and approved by local resources.
Second. Apologies to Commissioner Khalid.
I feel like, you know, you're asking architects to be on this board. I'm giving my opinion about this cornice and it's being rejected. And I really feel we're letting this thing go. And this is Soulard. I mean, they can afford to put a little bit more money in this thing and get it right. So I'm vehemently against this one.
I think I respect you and your opinion, but I think if it's not a requirement to have someone throw an extra expense, whether it's a homeowner or a developer, I just think that's not our place if it's not a requirement. If it was a
To
requirement.
get the cornice right is, I mean, you can argue the windows in the basement, but the cornice is a mistake. I've seen these things go up like this.
What I can say is this: the motion allows for staff to have some wiggle room and some discussion with the owner to make some modifications. I don't think what Mr. Clean is mentioning is inappropriate. I think we've seen things in the past where we don't necessarily like that height. A lot of times when we get drawings in from certain designers, we see these deviations. So I think that what he's asking for is not out of the realm possible, and we can actually work with the owner to tweak it. But again, it's that caveat you give us to work with them on the final details.
Right, yeah, I think that's.
And that's what I felt the initial motion would have granted that, and I really appreciate Commissioner Khalid's specificity, but I guess to Commissioner Khalid, do you think this text should include more specificity around these items?
Well, yeah, and all due respect to you guys, I'm just requesting, yeah, that we just add a little bit more to this, that they work with the cornice to get the proportions right. And you know, I feel strongly about these basement windows. This is the second time this has come up. I think it was the same developer, and I just, you know, they belong in that district. They're all over the place. And just to arbitrarily say, oh, we don't have to do basement windows because we don't have to do everything in a model example. I mean, those are the eyes of these houses, and you know, we can worry about security, but you put bars up and that light brings those basements to life. I built a house like this in Benton Park a few years ago, and that helped sell it. So
How it's fair, there's model examples, just saying, even though if there's a model example required and you're showing us the model example, we're gonna put this extra stipulation on you to create these windows because we're telling you to. So I think if there was no model example, I'd be on board, but if they can show model examples, I just don't know how it's our right to say you need to spend more money to create these windows because that's what we like.
Yeah, yes. To qualify them, can you go back to the model example, please? The model does have windows in the basement.
Okay, but all of the buildings don't have basement windows. The one on the screen didn't have these.
Oh, the ones along 10th, you're saying. The 10th Street ones do not have windows.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's examples. I just don't know how we can force somebody to do what we want them to do if they can provide examples of the way that they showed it to us. I just don't know how that's okay. I understand how we want things to be designed, but we're not designing them. If they're adhering to the regulations and rules, then we need to approve, in my opinion.
Let's see where we are on the motion. Motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Khalid, you vote yes or no?
no,
Commissioner Narayan, you vote yes or no?
We had a drop off at 6.
abstains on this vote. There are 2 yeses, 1 no, motion carries. So,
I couldn't hear that. What was the outcome of that one?
it was, motion carried.
Did the chairman vote?
Chairman abstained. We take a 2-minute break. New application for public service channel.
You accept someone away. That's the only solution.
Commissioners, we are going to hear agenda item E and agenda item G, after which I'm going to do a roll call to see who's present. Agenda item E.
I am Andrea Gagan with the Cultural Resources Office. And this is a new application and a Board of Public Service referral. This is 5595 Grand Avenue, which is in Forest Park. The proposed project is located on a vacant field just north of the existing racquetball courts. Proposal will be to add basketball courts to Forest Park and includes the construction of 2 full basketball courts, 2 half courts, a shade structure, and landscaping. Basketball courts will be located near the existing handball and racquetball courts in the Dennis and Judith Jones Visitor and Education Center. The courts will be partially visible from some locations on Linda Boulevard and minimally visible from Grand Drive. Here. Go ahead. This is just, sorry. This is the project location. As you can see, it's fairly close to Lindell, although the previous photo I had shown was from Lindell, and it's still quite a distance to the courts from Lindell. This is the site plan showing the basketball courts as well as the 2 half courts on either side. And to the north of the courts is this where the shade structure will be located. It's just another detailed view of the proposed courts, the landscaping, which includes a small retaining wall. This is the proposed shade structure that is to be built to the north of the courts. And this is just a rendering of what the courts will look like. As you can see, the racquetball courts are to directly south, and there are handball courts so close to there. This is a view towards the location of the proposed basketball courts from the handball courts. And this is looking from Grand Drive towards proposed courts. And some views from Lindell. Obviously, in some places it is visible, will be visible. In the photo to the right, those are the existing courts, racquetball courts that the basketball courts will be right in front of that. The proposed basketball court straight structure and landscaping would be visible from some locations on Linda Boulevard and minimally visible from Grand Drive. The proposed courts and shade structure are relatively simple in design and would have minimal visual impact. Based on this, the Cultural Resources Office recommends the Preservation Board approve the application to construct basketball courts, shade structure, and landscaping. The staff also proposes the Preservation Board recommend to the Board of Public Service the approval of the permit for the new garden area in this public space pursuant to Ordinance 64689, Section 51, as codified at 24.24010 of the revised code of the City of St. Louis. Questions?
Is the applicant present?
Yeah, we're here.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think she's done a nice job of describing.
Is this going to be a basketball? Is it going to be basketball courts like we're going to be a basketball courts?
Yes, they are. 2 full courts, 2 half courts.
Be very nice.
It feels like we're dragging the park into the 1980s.
But we're happy to be a part of it.
There are 2 people signed up to speak. Molly Devereaux. Devereaux, you've been so patient. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I know it's late, so I'm going to try to be brief.
Oh, no, we're here on midnight.
Oh, okay, good. So I'm Molly Devereaux, and I live on Lindell, directly across the street from where the basketball courts are going to propose to be constructed. A number of us have tried to participate in the construction of the proposed basketball court since the beginning, and have asked that they consider other locations other than the location that they've decided on. Mostly because I think there's a number of other locations that would serve the basketball community as good as this location does. Number one, this is the only venue in Forest Park that is on the border of the park. It's not on the interior.
Bike lane. Yeah,
No, I'm not talking about the bike lanes. I'm talking about soccer fields, Dwight Davis, the racquetball courts, everything else. The visitor center is right there. There's wedding receptions there. They're proposing to keep these basketball courts open till 10 o'clock at night with lights that shine into our homes. The lights are supposed to be turned off now, but they're not turned off. They're on 24 hours a day. They propose that it's for children. I don't see why children need to be playing basketball at 10 o'clock at night. And, you could put the basketball courts on the south side of the tennis courts, on the west side of the tennis courts, over by Steinberg, where they're going to redoing Steinberg. Metrolink is right there. In fact, it's probably closer to Metrolink than it is to where they're proposing to do it now. Central fields have been completely redone. There's drinking fountains, ample parking. I would say the location of the basketball courts in relation to the swing sets that are there now, plus the children's playground that was constructed that is always in use. I don't think they're compatible. I think the noise that's going to be generated from it for the people that live right along there is going to be a nuisance. I think the lighting is going to be a nuisance, and I think the traffic is going to be a nuisance. So, if this is where they decide and what gets approved to put the basketball courts, I'd ask that you consider not having any lights at all and have it closed when the sun goes down. I'd also like you to consider making Lindell no parking so that, we can enjoy our street, we can enjoy our front yard.
You were in charge of parking. There are some changes I've made.
Well, so what about that? Because,
I'm sorry, we're not parking.
Okay, so when you look at, what's been yellowed out on Lindell where you can't park, who would be responsible for that?
Some other departments.
Okay, so, we're new to this. So what's the process for this? They've made application to put the basketball courts here. Is this the end of the discussion?
This is only for design and a recommendation for public service.
Okay.
What was it gonna look like basketball courts?
I guess my question is, I'm looking at the hours of Forest Park and
Mhm.
it closes at 10 PM. So I'm wondering why the basketball courts would need to close at sundown.
Well, I don't care if the basketball courts close at sundown, just don't put lights on them so that they shine into our bedroom windows.
But if you purchase a house on Linville, you're free to look at the park and whatever goes along with it.
We're not gonna do that. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Kirkwood Drew.
Hi, good evening. Thank you to the board for letting me speak. I am
You
speaking.
must have the correctly pitched voice.
What's that?
The microphone's working.
It's working. I tend to lean in because I talk quietly. I am here representing my mother, who is Mary Ann Murphy, sitting behind me. She owns and resides at 5591 Lindell, which is 2 doors down from Mrs. Devereaux. My family's lived in that location for the last 70 years. When we first heard about the basketball courts and the coming to the park, we were excited, thought it was long overdue, and generally a great idea until we realized that that picture is directly across the street from our house. In addition to, sorry, I just lost my place. In addition to Lindell being a historic district, it is also the only single-family residential block on the park. So you have 3 other sides of the park, multifamily, or the highway over by the zoo, all good locations. And as we understand it from Forest Park Forever, there were 5 other approved locations within the park, and they just opted to choose the one directly across from our house. All of our houses. We, like Mrs. Devereaux, attended numerous meetings put on by Forest Park Forever, and were informed that there was a scoring system that took place to choose the final site. We requested the details of that scoring system to understand how the location across from our home was chosen, and we're still awaiting a response. We've also requested an environmental impact report and have yet to receive anything from Forest Park Forever or the mayor's office. Flooding is an ongoing issue on Lindell due to the River Des Peres, which runs underneath both Lindell and the park. There was a detailed article in the Post-Dispatch in July of this year talking about the problems upstream, starting in University City and going downstream to the Central West End, Lindell and Forest Park. In addition, the elevation of the courts is 20 to 30 feet approximately above where Lindell sits, and the water runoffs onto the street cause flooding of the basements of the houses on Lindell. We believe that the basketball courts are going to make that worse. And we would like to see the environmental report. We have reason to believe that those studies haven't been done or haven't been done to the extent that they were communicated to us. And we continue to ask that Forest Park Forever consider another approved location within the park to build the basketball court project. Thank you.
Anybody online?
I have a motion. My motion is the Preservation Board approve the application to construct basketball courts, shade structure, and landscape.
Second.
Any discussion? Any virtual discussion? Okay, I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamaker, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Khalid, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair votes yes on this. There are 5 yeses.
Believe that happen has a hard stop at 6:30. We just have, I think, 2 or 3 more items. We can get to them.
We have one more thing to do on this. Commissioners, I move that we recommend to the Board of Public Service the approval of the permit for the new garden area and public space pursuant to ordinance 64689, section 51, as codified in 24-24-010, the revised code of the city of St. Louis. Any discussion? Can you, can you voice vote, please?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. Okay, I want to do next agenda item G.
Yes, very quickly, this is a BPS referral to the Preservation Board for the construction of an apiary on two corners of the intersection of Salisbury and North 23rd. And this is the location. If you can make out the Robin's Egg blue lines, those are the location of two parts of the apiary. Sorry. Oh. Did I step in somebody's?
No, no, you want to do the Lutheran Development Group letter?
I want to do development of the letter, and I'm going to call a roll as promised. Yeah.
Get to the exciting part.
Sorry. I said G. But
I don't hear as well as I used to.
And we lost the poopy thing from this microphone. We need to find the poopy thing at some point. Okay, but just really very quickly, we've been contacted by the Lutheran Development Group. They are applying for a grant to study what they would call the Mount Pleasant National Register District. The SHPO has informed them that they need a letter of support from the local body, which is the Preservation Board. This is a draft letter that they would like the Preservation Board to sign off on. The next slide shows in blue the boundaries of the proposed district. It would fill this hole really in South St. Louis. It is not currently a National Register District, and we are recommending that you approve it.
I move that we approve this on the condition that we add in paragraph 3 some statement about protection of cultural resources, the goal of this district, as well as economic development.
Okay.
Should be simple.
Gladly.
I did. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no? Commissioner Hamilton, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Khalid, you vote yes or no?
I can't tell if that was me or not, but I vote yes, Tomaker.
Commissioner Khalid, did you vote yes?
Yes.
Okay, Chair abstains, there's 4 yeses, and 1 abstention, the motion carries. Someone has doubted the presence of a quorum, I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Allen, are you present?
Present.
Commissioner Hammack, are you present?
Present.
Commissioner Hamilton, you present?
Yes.
Commissioner Khalid, you present?
Yes.
Commissioner Calla is present, we have a quorum. Agenda item F.
The apiary on 2 sites at the intersection of North 23rd and Salisbury Avenue. What we have is the referral from BPS. Then under ordinance 64689, the Preservation Board is required to recommend to the Board of Public Service, if appropriate, that the project be approved. Okay. We have a submission which is mostly civil drawings, so it's a little difficult to convey the ultimate appearance of the sites, but it will be mostly landscaping and a few pathways, a small retaining wall, and redone sidewalks. And these are the 2 sections, and again, another, we can go on, Bob. And this is the north corner location. South. Okay. Otherwise, the staff is recommending that the board recommend to BPS approval.
Do you have any pictures of actual trees?
Not yet, but they'll be coming.
Does this mean if this is approved in the Hyde Park local district, this would be the model example if someone else wanted to construct an apiary?
Indeed.
All right. Fair enough.
so we're trying to.
My motion's the staff, proposes the preservation board recommend, sorry. Yes, my motion is that, we recommend to the Board of Public Service the approval of the permit for apiary, and related improvements pursuant to ordinance 64689, section 51, as codified at 24.24.010 of the revised code of the city of St.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Discussion of November, December, January preservation.
Bob, you were supposed that. And I realize we don't really have enough people to make a final decision here, but as usual, the holidays are messing with our normal fourth Monday schedule. Stars on this calendar show the dates that show the fourth Mondays. What we're proposing, and we will make sure that we confirm with all the board members, so we're sure to have quorums, is that we move the board meetings actually up, so before the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're proposing a November board meeting of November 20th, which would be the week of the Thanksgiving holidays. A December board meeting of December 18th, one full week before Christmas. And then in January, we could either do it on the 22nd, which would be the fourth Monday, or we could do it on the 29th. My preference would be on the 29th, because that gives us, enough time after the holiday hangover to really get back into the swing of things.
It might be, but, that holiday.
Martin Luther King. Sorry.
I think a lot of people travel. I think a lot of people travel between Christmas and New Year's.
Right, that's why we're proposing the December meeting on the 18th.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so you said the 29th.
No, that's for
Okay.
January, yeah.
Want to send us a survey?
Yes, I will send out a survey.
Do you have any other business?
We do not.
Okay, therefore a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
No objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, staff. This was not nearly as awful as I thought. it was.
No.
There's another requirement.
Like, what if